I've fallen into a pattern. Every bandit gets the same red, every knight gets the same chainmail. My painting has felt formulaic lately, and I want to mix it up. For my birthday, I got the Folkestone Basics 16 color set from Vallejo. At first glance, it's moody and aimed at a reserved, historical, or low fantasy palette selected by European masters, whoever those are. But I believe it has strong potential as an all-rounder, and I want to see if it's as versatile as I think it can be. I'm going to challenge myself to break the cycle of my current formulaic approach for miniature painting while I test this set's boundaries. I'll take on 3 miniatures representing 3 genres common in tabletop gaming, each with different painting requirements to be met using only the contents of this box. I have a Preist from Chivalry Miniatures 3D, a historical mini where this set should excel, a US Marine from Black Hill Games where we need to start color matching real world examples, and a Stormcast Eternal from Games Workshop where we push the limits of this set, striving for a more eye-catching, vibrant, crispy paint job not unlike the classic heavy metal style. 3 completely different models for one specific set of paints. So we'll see what this set can do, and I'll wrap the video up with a showcase and closing thoughts on this artsy selection from Vallejo. My first thought when opening this box up is, wow, that's way brighter than the box art let on. The color samples on the back of the box do not do this justice. The browns, greens, and even blues were about the moody tones I was expecting, but those reds and yellows are screaming bright. It's a curveball, but let's see what else we're working with. Packaged inside, we have a slick poster which depicts suggested use cases of the paints within. Nifty, nifty. Looking at the photography, you can see why I thought this set would be a little more reserved. But alright, let's get some of this on the palette. The first mini is our Preist. This is the Folkestone set's home field, the type of miniature it was designed for. A medieval Preist would probably have a lot of muted tones, and there's a good mix of browns and other colors here to work with. Let's start with the metallics. I usually paint gold with a brown wash, but I'm not using it this time around. So I mix some of the military green in with the gold to act as a base. I love shading gold with green, so it's not a hard choice for me. I'm applying it to this big cross relic and the crucifix on his neck. Now the chainmail. The chainmail is like the best place for washes to work their magic, and I miss it already. I mix a base coat of the silver and flat brown trying to match the chainmail on my other models I have painted for pillage, but I'm not in love with it, so I try mixing in some dark Prussian blue and black to desaturate and darken. And while I stew on how to continue the chainmail, I'll dry brush the gold areas with a 50-50 mix of silver and gold to get a highlight in. So I go back and I dry brush the chainmail with silver as a highlight, but I'm still not crazy about the result. So I water down some dark Prussian blue as a pseudo wash, a glaze really, and go over it again once that's dried with another silver dry brush to get it where it needs to be. It's a bit of a rough start for the home field advantage, but we're gonna push through. I'm not terribly mad at the chainmail results, and maybe the rest of the model will elevate it. Let's move on to the robes. This set has a good variety of brown colors, so hopefully this goes a little smoother. I'll start with a base coat of Prussian blue and flat brown. I'm really excited about this blue. Having a dark blue to mix shades is never a bad thing to have under your belt, and I love a cool toned shadow. And as I establish the mid-tones with the flat brown, I'm feeling pretty confident about the robes. I like the shading we've established, and we have a variety of options for the highlights. But most of all, I'm really excited about this orange brown. It's warm and bright and a color I've never used before. I'll mix in just a touch of the flat brown to match it with the mid-tones and apply it as a highlight, and I think it's phenomenal. I love the subtle play between the cool shadows and warm highlights. We have an orange-blue color contrast played out on a medieval brown palette. Sick. Okay, so he's got this tabard, frocky, smocky article over his chainmail, and I think I'd like to paint it a dark color. Black seems like a modest and priestly choice, and I'm really feeling the Prussian blue shadow technique, so I mixed that up with a little bit of black and a drop of flat brown, like a 3:2:1 ratio. The idea here being that mixing these colors into all of the shadows will help unify the palette across the entire model. I'm feeling energized and confident by that previous cool shadow to warm highlight experiment, so I'm going to build up the midtones with a mix of flat brown, black, and a little bit of sky gray to desaturate. Then I finish up with a quick highlight of sky gray and a pin wash style application of the original base coat back in the recesses. I realize by mixing in the sky gray, I've kind of cooled off the miniature, so we'll have a cool to cool color transition here. It's fine, I don't mind. I can balance that out by incorporating warm tones elsewhere. And I think it's gonna be that skin. Now, it's been quite some time since I've mixed skin tones. Usually I paint by using a flesh paint and then a flesh wash. But fuck it, we're doing it live. No comfort recipes this time around. I mixed some of the bright orange with the orange brown for an even orangier orange brown. And I just apply that to all the arms, the feet, and the head, something ludicrously warm to build off of. Now I need a peachy skin mid-tone, so I'll mix in some red and white. It takes a minute, but I get there, and apply that to everything but the deepest recesses of the skin, like the eye sockets in between the fingers. Before I even cracked open the first bottle, the one thing I knew that this set needs is a bone-colored paint, a buff. But we got yellow and white, so we'll mix together a quick replacement to highlight the raised features like the nose brow and knuckles. I use buff constantly, and would prefer not to have to mix it every time, but we're only doing 3 models here, so I'll manage for now. I'm still iffy on the skin. I go back and forth between the midtones and highlights and shadow, pushing, glazing, and blending in different areas. Is it a little more work than a single flesh tone paint? For sure. But the ability to dictate different hues in skin is a great tool, and does a lot to set the mood of a miniatures paint job. But there is a benefit to knowing when to stop fighting the paint and say, good enough. And that's what I do. That was a little finicky, but a refreshing challenge. Let's try the beige brown. I like using this color for wood, so it's an obvious choice for the cudgel, and I'll paint the belt cord the same color to differentiate it from the robes. Oh, now here's a place that sky gray will do really well. The beard! A light gray is an excellent base for painting whites, so we'll give him a wizened white beard, like a zealous Santa Claus. And then I just paint the edges of the beard with white to complete the effect. Then just some little pips of paint here and there, some dots of beige brown along the lumps of the belt cord, and a little bright paint for the jewel in the center of the cross to bring it all home. So that was kind of a wild paint up. Immediately thrown into the color mixing gauntlet here, but I'm really pleased with how ultimately that came out. The saturation is subtle, and with a quick basing it fits nicely with my other Dark Age miniatures. I'd call this particular trial a success. The model played to this palette's strengths. You have a nice variety of browns, and all of these beautiful bright warm colors means you can mix some really nice skin tones. But now it's time for something a little different. Modern military. The Preist came out pretty good, so confidence is high for me. If you're painting anything military set in the last 100 years or so, you can't get around olive drab. And we got 2 nice greens in the set, so let's see what they can do. I'm gonna paint his fatigues green. I start with the military green, but it's a little bit brighter than I'd like for a base coat, so I go back and mix in some of the black for a 2-to-1 ratio. And I follow that up with a dry brush of the medium olive. That dark mix of military green and black should help this medium olive stand out. And now, for a cheeky final highlight, I mix in some yellow and dry brush anything sticking out, like elbows, knees, and shoulders. He's not looking like any particular military at the moment. He kind of looks more like some federal armed task force guy, which is fine, but I can't lie, I'm kicking myself a little bit. I really should have sprung for a camo pattern. This is gonna bug me for a minute. Anyway, the other color I imagine you'd see quite often on a model like this is coyote brown. Very common color for plate carriers and pouches. So I mix a 1-to-1-to-1 ratio of black, beige brown, and flat brown as a base to the aforementioned plate carrier and pouches, but also the gloves, boots, and goggle covers, which I follow with the beige brown straight up. And like we did with the green, we'll dry brush once more for the highlights, beige brown and white mixed. I love dry brushing, it catches all the details so nice. But then I follow up with the traditional edge highlight. They look crispy that way. Onto the boomstick. Guns these days are not bright silver, so I thought I'd start with a 1-to-1 mix of the silver and black. But that silver is so dang bright that I mix in even more black until it's like a 5-to-1 ratio. Silver, not my favorite metallic to work with. But the gold goes on the bullet belt, so easy and smooth. No issues. Continuing with the gun, I know box mags for the M249 are usually green, but I swear I used to play like a video game where the stocks were green too. It could be Mandela effect. But either way, I'll paint both areas with a mix of the olive green and white to help it stand out from the rest of the overwhelmingly green miniature. Maybe it's a little on the bright side. I do go back in eventually with a darker mid-tone, but you know, whatever, that's okay, we're learning here. Now just some black paint, thinned down till it runs, and we sneak it into the recesses of the gun. That way, this dark gunmetal we've already painted can act as a highlight. I don't really want to go brighter than that. Now for the face, here we go again. There are 3 distinct features here. That's the sunglasses, the straps, and then the face itself. I have a feeling it'll be easier if I paint all of these areas at the same time, so let's see if we can pull that off. Let's start with the base coat for the skin, something which I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable with approaching now that we've got the Preist under our belt. Now we darken some sky gray with black and apply it to all the straps. This should probably be brown too, but I want to paint it a separate color to help stand out from both the earth tones and the fleshy tones. I want him to have some sick shades too, so I pop a little bit of that Carmine Red on there, which is followed by a dab of bright orange. I jump back over to the skin, mixing up our new skin recipe and pop it on all the raised areas. And well, I don't feel as strongly about the results here, but it's a very small face and not as prominent as on the Preist, so I'm not going to sweat it that hard. Then just some pips of sky gray on the straps for that final pop of detail to wrap this model up. Well, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little underwhelmed with the results. Not because of the paints I used, I just feel like this set could have been pushed more. The greens are nice, they did what they needed, and that's what I was hoping to get here. But the guilt of not having done camo for the fatigues is heavy, and I would have loved to have seen what I could do with this set. So I gave it a shot. I did a little test run here of two staple camouflage schemes, the US M81 Woodland and Multicam. I haven't painted camouflage since my World War II projects, and I enjoyed this as a little one-off challenge. Now, you usually don't have to get it exact with the patterns or colors to sell the effect on the tabletop, it's all gonna look similar at arm's length. Though if you want to get precise, I heavily recommend looking up tutorials and paint recipes. But if you're painting 50 of these guys, save yourself the trouble and buy matching paints. Bottom line, I'd say this set can handle modern military gear, and I've cured myself of the camo guilt. But this next one should be interesting. Alright, now the Stormcast. I have no idea what I'm going to do here. I've never painted a Stormcast, and I'm wildly out of the loop on AOS lore and any official canon color schemes. I've got no plan, I've got no clue, but I have some pretty red paints that I think deserve a chance in the spotlight. So red armor it is. And that starts with Prussian blue, mixed with the red, of course, and a touch of black so that I have a nice dark purple, the rock upon which I shall build my reds. Okay, we got the groundwork for a scheme and we're developing a direction. And while I paint the hammer, a black-blue mix, I got an idea for the next major color here. By applying a coat of sky gray, we have a good base for some white tabardy robe things. Both red and white are colors that need a slow build, multiple thin layers. But if you do it right, you get a nice smooth result. Now I can use the red straight out of the tube, heavily thinned, and after 2 coats of that and some drying time between, I can pull out the slightly brighter Carmine Red and paint a smaller surface area to help build that gradient. The difference between these 2 reds is nuanced, but they're different enough to stack nicely without having to mix anything else for a smooth transition. And as I work on that red, I realize that there are actually 2 separate articles of cloth that he's wearing, and it comes to me. The missing piece. The color to take this scheme to the next level. The Prussian blue and black mix again. Can you tell I'm developing a favorite? I work my way up to straight dark Prussian blue, then mixed with sky gray, and finally a cheeky little pastel blue edge highlight. Unlike the reds, the 2 blues included are very distinct in value. The pastel works nice for a crisp edge highlight on the Prussian blue, but not quite as a mid-tone. You see a lot of fantasy miniatures with red, white, and blue, but I think by including yellow, we can take this from a flag suit to a retro wargaming color scheme. This orange-brown is a standout to me, and it's time to see if it's up to the task as we bring on the storm of thin layers. The orange-brown is followed by the orange, 50-50 orange-yellow, and then 3 to 4 coats of the deep yellow until it's just yellow enough. At this point, I've built some confidence around this model. He's coming together in an unexpected way, and with that momentum, I'm going to finish all of the previous areas I've started. The sky gray here is working quite well as a mid-tone after I've run some dark gray mix into all the folds and then edge highlighted with the pure white. Thankfully, there's just enough surface area where a 3-color progression to white works, but if you need more colors between, you've already got white, black, and gray in this set, so it's easy enough to mix all of those missing steps. Our lack of plan is coming together, and with it, we're going to throw a haymaker from the top rope and finish the red with a bright orange highlight. It's the real final pop of color here, and we're going to bring our finest brush and drag it along the edges. Then maybe if you're feeling it, water it down to the point that it runs and lightly apply it to the tops of the larger rounded surfaces to establish them as the brightest point in that section of armor. Glorious. The model has come together beautifully, and the colors have come along nicely, and I forgot to do the hammer. Well, I'll just darken some of that silver with the Prussian blue, and with a quick dry brush, we'll pretend we meant to do that from the very beginning. Glorious. The model has come together beautifully. I can't say I'm surprised. I got that out of the way when I first saw how bright the colors in the box were. In terms of the reds and yellows, Folkestone includes smart jumps in color to help build smooth transitions when layering. Also, it's nice to have finally painted a Stormcast. It's a large and fairly simple model. Quite a treat to paint, I have to admit. So is the Folkestone Basics set as versatile as I'd hoped? You're goddamn right it is. It was subdued and retina assaultingly bright when the models demanded it. Would I recommend this set? For small amounts of thoughtfully painted models, this set is phenomenal and fun to work with out of the box. I would say though, if you're looking to churn through fully painting an army, I'd still suggest you buy a few utility colors to fill the gaps, specifically a bone and a darker metallic. But the thinking behind these color inclusions was just plain smart. You really can mix any color from the paints included, and if that's what you like to do, go nuts. This is a great set to work with. European masters indeed. I really enjoyed the friction of this little challenge. The experience of guessing what mix you choose to base coat your colors with was a perfect reset for my routine, which was starting to feel a little stale. I enjoyed seeing what colors I could put together, and it's so nice to break away from the color wash color formula. What a terrific birthday gift this was. Thank you all for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe as it really helps a growing channel out. This is Bristle. Happy painting.